All right. We've been dealing with Plutonomics, and here this is about the economics of food. And there's a silent pandemic going on. This is a very, very important video that is flowing from the Plutonomics, which is very important in what we're dealing with right now as a society in the world. So this is the economics of food. This is showing children in Africa who are really this is a bad thing. So if you want to understand the background, go to that speaks about how money is distributed. Here is a mushroom, here is a mushroom cloud. When the world was started, when the world was formed, they believe that it was first of all mushroom based life. Right now, the most common life form on earth is mushroom based. And a lot of people believe that when the world ends, it will be in a mushroom cloud. So the beginning and the end, all because of the love of money. All right. So we could live all organic, or we could destroy ourselves inorganically. So here I'm going into the silent pandemic. Very, very dense topic. So I've already been going really hard. And now I'm about to go even harder, even deeper. And it's about to go even more. Yeah, it's about to get more surgical. So just get the background of this. I really had to make this content for you so that you could hear this at this time that we're going through. Very transitory time. And this reminds me of the bronze serpent. When the children of Israelites were in the wilderness, God sent like snakes to bite them, vipers. They were bitten, and then the cure of this was a bronze serpent. So the serpent was put on a pole, and it looked pretty much like this S, the serpent, and the pole right in the middle. And they were saved when they looked at the pole. Very interesting, and that is the dollar bill. And this is where we get the World Health Organization symbology. And this is also linked to the caduceus, which is two snakes, which is different from the one snake. So Moses has had one snake, but then when it has two snakes, that's a whole different thing. But what I'm speaking about is this. So this is the dollar bill, this is the pole, the serpent. So they say that people will be saved by looking at that, but it's not to say that you'll be saved by money. No. No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But then there's a mystery in it. So this is why Plutonomics is very important. So Plutonomics is about the economy, different economies. It's about wealth, what is money, and all of that. So now I'm going into denser topics. I'm going to be talking about food, and I'm going to be talking about the silent pandemic. Very important. So yeah, get a notebook. But then yeah, it's about to go down. So let's actually do this quick, fast, and yeah, and get this done. So I'm gonna start. All right. So here, yeah. So we've already gone through Plutonomics pertaining to the science or study of wealth. So we've already gone through science. What is science? Knowledge, all of that. And we've already gone through the study of wealth or riches, partially, of course. If you need more on Plutonomics, as a Plutonian, I'm from Pluto, so as a person from Pluto, because I'm a Scorpio, as that type of being, then there's also a channel called Nerdy Money that I only speak about Plutonomics, which is about finance, wealth, trading, and money, gold, because it's very important for me to distinguish that, because it is a wise man who leaves a fortune for his children and his children's children. So it's not about worshiping money, it's about being wise with money. All right, so we're gonna go right deep into the trenches. All right, so here we go. So I'm opening worldometers.info. All right, so this is a worldometer, and what it's doing is showing me the current world population, 7.7 billion, right? And then when you click here, it gives you additional information. So we reached 7 billion in 2001. It's a very useful website. It also has corona updates. So it is projected to reach 8 billion by 2023, 9 billion by 2037, 10 billion by 2055. So this is going to be a very, very interesting year, 2050. So I don't know what will be happening then, but for now, we know certain things are going to be happening in 2030. So we're going to go over that in a second in terms of understanding the economics of food. All right. So has doubled in 40 years. So this is what keeps on happening. So all of this is pertaining to the world population and the different trends. So this happens when you click the plus. So when I close it, it goes back. Then it speaks about different births this year, births today. So this is an actual science, and they go through this through a certain algorithm. So it gives an estimate based on previous trends and projected forecasts. So they're not like counting like every person dying, but then this is a science that they put into an algorithm. So this is important here. So 24 million people have died this year, and right now we're living in a time where we're being bombarded by death, and this is a very natural process that has been happening like on a large scale each year. I know that the pandemic is really bad, but at the same time it is important to put this in perspective of understanding these trends. So we're gonna go over some other things. So this is a like, I don't love people dying because we're supposed to live, and the reason why I do identify with the words in the Bible is because it is life forever, you know. So it's supposed to be. So this is obviously not cool, because who actually comes and reaps is Saturn, or Saturn. Is Saturn the planet? So this is also tied in with we're talking about different planets in Plutonomics. So when we speak about Saturn, it is actually the planet that they worship around Christmas. That is Santa, and that is the reaper. All right, so he comes to reap in red guy, red devil. But anyway, so this is happening, right? And I am thankful that our society is not exposed to this type of gloom every day like we are these days, or were during the age of Corona, right? And Corona means crown. There's a video on the etymology of Corona. All right. So population growth. All right, and then it has a tab on government and economics. So here we have the public healthcare expenditure. So this is in the trillions. So they use so much money in public healthcare. So a lot of money is being used in the healthcare industry. People keep on making money. A lot of money is used in education. And this is in the billions. And this is military, cars produced. So this is exactly like how the economy works. So the economy must be producing all of this. So all right, so I have a whole channel that goes into economics and finance. But here I'm just going to be going over this issue briefly, but then it goes deeper in nerdy money. All right, if you want to know more about GDP and things like that. But whenever there's a contraction in GDP, it means that less cars are being produced, and bicycles and computers, because this must always increase. So as the population increases, right, this is the increase in population, the increase in births. All right, so there's also an increase in production. So there has to be more growth in order to accommodate for the future. All right, so there must always be an increase, and this is what we call an economic boom. So whenever there's like too much, like for example, if cars are like being overproduced beyond the normal, then there might be a possibility that there's a bubble. So this is what happened with the housing market crisis in 2008. So all of these things are factors that have to be accounted for. And this website also keeps an eye on society and media. So new books and all of this, TV sets sold worldwide today, and money spent on video games. All of these things are society. Emails. So emails are very important, and I think emails are strong and powerful, even in a world of social media. I think emails would be very, very important, and blog posts, tweets, Google searches. So this is all movement, and these things keep on increasing. So let's see. So Google searches this year so far, this is 1 trillion already people searching, and this number is growing quickly. All right, and it also keeps an eye on the environment. So the forest lost this year in hectares. This is huge. Hectares. 2 million hectares of forests have been lost, and the more we wait here, we're gonna see this increase, and it's at a slower pace, but you see it just increased right there. And land lost to soil erosion, CO2 emissions this year, all of this stuff. So now here, this video is based on this tab. All right, so I'm going to be going over this: undernourished people in the world and the state of the food insecurity in the world. This is from the FAO. All right, so we're going to be going over that from the Food and Agriculture Organization. So it's speaking about how there are close to 1 billion undernourished people in the world. This is 843 million people, all right, in the world. And there is over 1 billion, like not really double, but like 1.7 billion people are overweight. So we have people who are starving here, and we have people who are overweight, right? And then we also have people who are obese. So this is from the World Health Organization. So there's a problem of obesity, and there's a problem of undernourishment. All right, so here we have 24,000 people died of hunger today. All right, so this is in a day. When we go to the year, all right, so this is my date over here. We're in June 2022, 2nd of June 2020. All right, and it says that 4 million people died of hunger this year. All right, and then so these stats are from all of these organizations. 4 million. So already this is what I do call the silent pandemic, and this has been going on for years, even in a world where we have the most successful people. One person has $100 billion in his pocket, right? But then 4.7 million people are dying, and the more we wait, we're gonna see right here another person. Like this is an algorithm that's calculating this, but another person, and another person. And I'll tell you what's so sad about this in particular, what's so sad about hunger in particular in a second. However, money spent for obesity related diseases. So not only are people overweight, not only are they obese, but they're also spending a lot of money in the US, and this is where the problem is most rampant in the US. They actually throw away 40% of their food. All right, so 40% of the food in the US is actually not consumed, it's thrown away. That's a crazy number. Money spent on weight loss programs. So we're speaking of obesity, we're speaking of overweight, and all of this money is being spent because people are eating too much, right? Eating too much because the society treasures things like KFC, McDonald's, and things like that, among other things. And the access to money means that you're able to afford food. So we have an undernourishment problem and an over, well, it's actually still not nourishment, but an overweight problem. So we are over, we're under, there's no balance. All right, so before we get into the meat of this, we're just gonna go more into this data. So the water, we use the deaths caused by water related diseases this year. So this is also from another department in the World Health Organization. Well, what we're gonna focus on is this tab, which is from the FAO, not the WHO. But this is also a huge problem. 354,000 people have died this year, all right, because of water. All right, so this is before we even start speaking of coronavirus, and we have 800 million people with no access to a safe drinking water source in this world, right? Then we have energy, oil, then we have health, and then this is an interesting thing. So seasonal flu deaths this year, this is 205,000. But when we go on the corona stats, it's 300,000, I think. So so I don't know. I'm wondering if, all right, so every year, so in a year they expect a minimum of around about 290,000, which is vastly being approached because of the whole pandemic. But it usually stretches to 650,000 people. And we don't really know about this, but then this is every year. Okay, every year. So 500,000 people will be dying from flu around the world. So due to complications. So this is the same thing. So I'm not sure if the stats in coronavirus are actually accounting for this as well, to say like, all right, no, this was just regular flu, or what. But then this just really gets me thinking. So this figure corresponds to 795 to 1,781 deaths per day due to the seasonal flu. Okay. And a lot more people died through abortion. And yeah, this is very bad. 3 million children dying every year, under 5. Alright, 130 women die during birth. And here is another bad thing. 41.8 million people are infected with AIDS. 41 million. So this is a slow death. Alright, so this year 708 people have already died from AIDS. So close to a million, right? That's a lot. This is a really like silent, deadly killer. It's not even silent. Anyway, and cancer is also really bad, but not even as bad as AIDS, because with AIDS, excuse me, I thought this was the infection rate. So deaths caused by cancer is 3 million. Wow. So this is actually pretty worse. And these are the stats, right? And deaths caused by malaria, 413. So you have countries that have all of these compounded, and this is a reality that they live in. And all of these cigarettes smoked today, smoked this year, crazy amount. Death caused by smoking this year. So they just calculate how many cigarettes were sold and they divide it during each day, right? So I think it's fairly easy to come up with once you have the metrics. So 2 million people are dying from smoking. This is horrible, and this is every year. All right, and this is 10,000 people today in one day, right? So this is really bad, but still, this is a legal thing. So this is killing a lot of people. All right, this is killing a lot of people, and alcohol kills 1 million people. So we're still in June. So far this year, we're at 1 million. So I guess we'll update this later on. But then alcohol, smoking kills. But these are things that are sanctioned. And suicides this year, close to 500,000. Money spent on illegal drugs. Yeah, that's crazy, right? Yeah. So this is all illicit funds that are flowing through different means and channels and cars. So this is soon to be dramatically lowered because of self-driving cars. So that's an advantage, I suppose. But it also comes with its vices. Anyway, so yeah, you can share this. So this is the best way that I could think of sharing it. So I've just shared it with you. So I hope you can share this and or this video, because this video is about to go down. So here, we're zeroing in on the economics of food. Very, very important. So I'm gonna go to the food. All right. Alright, so I'm gonna go straight here. So this is the state of food security and nutrition in the world for 2019. The one for 2020 will come out next year in 2021. So this is the latest one. So you can download the full report here, and this is the link: FAO.org, Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. And this is from here. This is the state of food insecurity in the world. All right, the so this is the state of food security and nutrition in the world. So this is what we're gonna go over. Okay, so for decades the number of people has been declining. This isn't true anymore. So following from our discussion on wealth, we see that people are getting richer and richer, but still more people are starving and starving. Like more and more people are starving as people get richer and richer. Okay, more than 820 million people do not have enough to eat. This is a crazy number. More than 820 million people don't have enough to eat. So I'm just gonna grab this again just to reiterate. So there are people here, right, and some of them have no food, some of them have no water. All right, so when we went over this, we say that this is the food part. Okay, so some have no food and some have no water. All right, so this is food, water, wealth, warmth, all right, rest, security, safety. So all of these are compounding in actual death. Food, water, and these are the numbers. This is actually what is happening. This is the end result. 843 million people. 800 million people have no food. So the reason why this actually affects me right now is because of the whole lockdown thing. When we are in a lockdown situation, it means that the people who need the most, who needs to go out and eat the most, because the economy is food basically. So I was actually gonna call this the economy, the economy. Yeah. So everything that is food related is related to the economy. So the people who will be affected are already the people who are undernourished. So from this corona virus time, we're gonna see any percentage of this group of 800 million people be affected. So even if from this group 3 million people are affected severely because of economic lockdown, this will be reflected in the corona digits. Maybe not just undernourished people, but also people who need water. But maybe not just people who need water only, but also people who have underlying conditions. So all of these numbers are really gonna be compounding. So so however they're gonna slice it, whoever they're gonna blame it on, it is still an aspect or a feature of this society and how it is arranged. All right, the eye of providence. It is still the same thing. So the people here This is where so there are 3.4 billion people in the bottom half of the wealth. So to get more on this is all in the video on Pluton, the Plutonomics. All right, so this is where you get the 800 billion people and the other 800 who don't have food, don't have water, are living in AIDS environments, and cancerous, with smoking, with alcohol. This is the bottom half. And in this 70% area, this is where all of this is happening. All of this is happening. All right. All of these diseases. All right. So this is a very, very dear topic to me, the most important. That's why, like, I just have no other way of expressing this. So more than 20 million people do not have enough to eat, and the number is growing. Okay, 820, but this is 843. The source is the same, but the number keeps on rising. The number keeps on rising. The number keeps on rising. All right. So at the same time, no region is exempt from the epidemic. All right. So now we're using this word again. And where does this remind you? What does this remind you of? So yeah, really watch Plutonomics to understand what this epidemic means in 2020. So the epidemic of overweight and obesity. So this is actually another problem. Obesity. All right, 700 million people are obese. All right, people who died of hunger this year, already at 4 million. Already at 4 million. And this is another problem, but obesity is another issue too. So here I want you to see something. All right, I'm just gonna close this in case I need to come and check it out, because so here we have so what you'd actually see is here the death caused by cancer this year is 3.6 million, 3.4 million, right? And then when we go to food, the people who died of hunger this year is 4.7 million. So this undernourishment problem is worse than cancer. So they're trying to find a cure for cancer, right? But then they are not finding the cure for hunger, which is the silent pandemic. Very, very deadly, very, very brutal, and widespread. All right. So at the same time, no region is exempt from this epidemic of overweight and obesity. Ending hunger and all forms of malnutrition by 2030 is an immense challenge. So this is the 2030 SDG Sustainable Development Goal. With real political commitment, bolder action, and the right investment, zero hunger is still achievable. So food insecurity is more than just hunger. So the main indicator for monitoring progress on the eradication of hunger is the world reported here is the prevalence of undernourishment. So the prevalence of severe food insecurity based on the food insecurity experience here was also included in the report as another complementary indicator of hunger using a different approach. So this year's report is summarized in this one right here. So this is speaking about the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, which is for the 2030 aims that the United Nations has. So I'm reading this so that I can just get some information through to you on this silent pandemic and on the economics of food and how this actually all ties into what's happening and what we can do about that. So this ties in with global wealth and all of this. So monitoring progress on ending hunger and ensuring access to food for all. So this is something that they have been working on, right? So here is explanation of food insecurity severity levels measured by the FIES in SDG indicated 2.12. So in the green, we have people who had food security, adequate access to food with both quality and quantity. So more people have that, like a lot of people have that. And now this is a really troubling area where we have moderate food security in orange, and in red we have severe insecurity. So the orange circle shows people experiencing moderate food insecurity, face uncertainties about their ability to obtain food, and have been forced to compromise in the quality and or quantity of the food they consume. So what has happened in the lockdown is this orange box has expanded somewhat, but not completely, because the wealth inequality is just too much. So through this, the red dot is also expanding. All right. So and the green one is expanding, which means that the gap of rich and poor is getting wider and wider. So this is why more and more people are suffering from food insecurity. So in this red dot, where we have close to a billion people, in this red dot, um, what happens when the economy is said that it has to close down? What happens to these people? What happens to them? What happens to those people? So prevalence of undernourishment. So here I'm gonna make you read with me a little, but it's gonna be worth it. And don't worry, it's not too much reading, just some light reading. And I think it's awesome that you get to watch and read at the same time, because reading is power. Readers are leaders. Information is information. The two most recent editions of this report have already offered evidence that the decades-long decline in the prevalence of undernourishment in the world had ended, and the hunger was slowly on the rise. Additional evidence available this year confirms that the global level of the POA, which is prevalence of undernourished, has remained virtually unchanged. All right, at a level slightly below 11%. All right, this is of the total global population. That's crazy. While the total number of undernourished NOU has been slowly increasing for several years now. This means that today, a little over 820 million people suffer from hunger, corresponding to about 1 in every 9 in the world. And this is a child, all right? So in the past 3 years, the number of people who suffer from hunger has slowly increased, with more than 820 people. So in the past 3 years, this is 2019's report. So this number is increasing, even though in the past 3 years, people have been getting richer and richer. So this is the number of undernourished people in the world has been on the rise since 2015. So there was a slight drop, okay? So there was a slight drop. So the orange line is the number of people undernourished, all right? So this is the number, like 110 million. And this is the prevalence of undernourishment in the world. This is on the left axis. So in 2005, there are about this number was high, like 947 million people were undernourished, and this represented 14% of the population. All right, and then it got low to in 2015 to 800 million, which is 10% of the global population. But right now, we're at 821 million, which is representing 10% of the population, which is still a huge problem because we're speaking in the hundreds of millions of people. So this really has to be taken care of, because this is a problem that's worse than cancer. But the thing is, what causes it is much more fundamental, because when we go into this hierarchy of needs, this is what we're seeing. This is society. And when we get into the hierarchy of needs, this is the result. So this is society. So this is the result. This is the result over here. This is the result of that society. All right. So now this is undernourishment in the world from 2005 to 2018, and here in the world, so this is the world data, and I'm just gonna focus on 2018 in this row. So in 2018, Africa has the largest number, but within Africa, we are looking at Eastern Africa. All right, in fact, we're looking at Sub-Sahara Africa and Eastern Africa. So these are the areas that have that as the biggest problem in the world, which is mostly Africa, which is 19%. In Asia, which is the second most afflicted, has 11%. All right, and then Latin America 6% in the previous numbers according to the FAO. So this, in terms of Northern America, is like this is not their problem. Their problem is obesity. All right, too much food, while in Africa is too little food. So we live in a world where if they were just able to find a way to collaborate and share, this would not be a problem. But apparently we're not in a novel here. All right, so the situation is most alarming in Africa. All right, clearly. So this is Africa here. Africa, right? So at this height it was 21, and now it's 19.9. So it's hard. It's changed a bit. It's dropped a bit, but it's still really bad. Northern Africa is okay, but Sub-Sahara and in East Africa, this is where the challenge really is. So in Eastern Africa we have Southern Africa, and then so this is all Sub-Sahara Africa. So Sub-Sahara Africa is generally where the problem is, especially in Eastern Africa and in the middle. Southern Africa might be better because this is where the biggest economy, or one of the biggest economies, is in Africa, which is South Africa, and North Africa has Egypt. But in West Africa, we also have Nigeria, but then there's still a huge percentage of people there who need food assistance. So it's really alarming in Africa, where since 2015, this shows slightly but steady increase in almost all sub-regions. In Asia, this has been, so this is reaching 11.4% in 2017. And Latin America rates of undernourishment have increased in recent years, largely as a consequence of the situation in South America. So this is speaking about all right, the 2009 edition, right? So it says, according to the latest estimates, 9.2% of the world population, or slightly more than 700 million, were exposed to severe levels of food insecurity in 2018. So 2019, the number has grown. All right. So implying reduction. So, and this is 2019, but now we're in 2020. So now the problem is, in 2020, with the whole economic restrictions, this is gonna be very, very harmful to the people who are already at risk in a major way, which is mostly in Africa, you see. So implying reductions in the quality of food consumed to extent, so this is in Asia. This is also a big problem in Asia. We estimate that over 2 billion people do not have regular access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food. So now the number is at 2 in terms of regular access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food. So some people have food, but then there's it's even bigger. So it's 2 billion people we're considering here from 700 million. So it's interesting. So, a broader look at the extent of food insecurity beyond severe levels and hunger reveals that an additional 17.2% of the world population, or 1.3 billion, have experienced food insecurity at moderate levels, meaning they did not have regular access to nutritious and sufficient food. All right? So the combination of moderate and sufficient levels of food insecurity brings an estimate of 26.4% of the world population, amounting to about 2 billion people. So this is what it's talking about. Food access that is affected by seasons, droughts, economies, and to an extent, climate change. All right. So the concentration and distribution of food security by severity differs greatly across the regions of the world. So again, we have the world here, all right? So the people in the world, 704 million people, are not in a comfortable zone or in the red dot. And then these are the 2 billion people we're speaking of in the orange dot. And the rest of the people in this other green area have food security. So we're speaking generally about the bottom half. So this is just a pyramid. So this is the circle, and the big circle is the small people, and such as that. All right. So here, when we look at Asia, this is how it's broken down. So Asia is a bigger continent. It has about 300 million people who need food. And then when we look into Africa, with its population of 1.2 trillion people, it has 200 million people who need food. And Europe, it's only about 11 people, but roughly the same population as Africa. And Latin America has a smaller population, but about 55 million people are in need of food, while in Northern Europe, Northern America, and Europe, only 11 million people. So, if anything, such as economic lockdown, is gonna happen, this is gonna affect a place like Africa the most, because it has a rather small population in relation to Asia, but the numbers are considerably large. The red dot is almost the same size. Of course, the Asian one is bigger, but they're almost the same size. But in terms of population, Asia is gigantic and Africa is smaller. So this is a big problem, and this is where the problem is. So malnutrition exists in multiple forms, and this is so bad, and this is why I made this video. Maternal and child undernutrition contributes to 45% of deaths in children under 5. Alright, so this is from the United Nations. They're not lying. They always write everything in plain sight, right? So 45% of deaths of children under 5 is because of undernutrition. Overweight and obesity are on the rise in almost all countries, contributing to 4 million deaths globally. So this is also another thing. Overweight and obesity, all right, contributes to 4 million deaths. The various forms of malnutrition are entwined through the life cycle, with maternal undernutrition, low birth weight, and child stunning giving rise to increased risk of overweight later in life. So this overweight issue might start from children, but this is growing as well, and it's a big issue. So this section assesses global and regional trends and patterns to track progress towards 7 nutritional indicators used to monitor global World Health Assembly targets. All right. So this is what really bothers me. The whole fact that most of the people who are affected by this, or a lot of them, are children like this under 5, and they're the ones who are most affected by this. So this is the progress in malnutrition is too slow to achieve the 2025 and 2030 global nutrition goals. So what this is showing is the different causes or the different problems that are that young children under 5 are facing, and it's also going on to anemia and obesity. But then all of this is speaking about children, infants, right? So um, this arrow is showing the global nutrition targets, and the one in gray is showing the target extended to 2030 to be aligned with the SDG timeline. So this is what it will need to be in order. So this is what it has to. So these two arrows have to align to get a bullseye. So this is really what the problem is about. Yeah. So this is a real big problem, and the simplest way to deal with it is to find out like what is causing this. So here I'm not gonna go over all of the different aspects word for word, but I'm just gonna summarize. So what they ended up saying in this report. So this is not the full report. This is just a highlight. So they say that the economic slowdowns and downturns are when the food situation actually is exacerbated and it gets worse. But so an economic slowdown is when there's no economic growth, and this affects people more than anything. So all of these are the trends that have happened recently. So this is real GDP per capita, personal wealth, and how it has grown. So this is in 2009, and when this was happening, it is showing that the GDP dropped, which means the production of people dropped, and the people in different countries lost money, but now they're regaining it back. But what is interesting here is that this country in green is Asia. That's the one that is at the top right now, and this is and Asia right now is in rivalry with the country in purple. So the two at the top here, in green 3.7 and 2.1 growth in GDP per capita, which is for every person within that community. So this is so the purple one is America and Europe, Western countries. The green one is China and Asia and India and all of that. So this is actually showing what the future wealth is going to look like, with China and Asian countries at the top, America and all of that at the bottom. But here we see at the bottom, in orange, we see Africa is growing very quickly. So we'll see how quickly it actually does grow. And at the bottom we have Oceania. So rises undernourishment in places where the economy slowed down or contracted. So this is what happens. But now I want us to go to a statement here that is going to really bring this full circle. All right, bring this whole full circle. So so yeah. So economic slowdowns and downturns generate a number of direct and indirect impacts that flow through different transmission channels and challenge food security and nutrition. The final impact and nutrition depends on how many poor people live in the country and extent which they face. Alright, great. Alright. The role of inequalities and marginalizations in shaping food security and nutrition outcomes. Economic growth alone is not sufficient to reduce extreme poverty or improve food security and nutrition. Inequality, not only in the distribution of income, alright, inequality, not only in the distribution of income, but also in the access of nutrition, relevant services, and social and health infrastructure is critical in understanding why this is so. In fact, Evidence indicates that in countries that have greater levels of inequality, economic slowdowns and downturns have a disproportionately negative effect on food and nutrition security. So, bringing this full circle, we spoke about plutonomics, and one word comes here: inequality. So this is exactly what is happening. Inequality is why we have this silent pandemic. All right, income inequality is rising in nearly half the countries in the world, including many low and middle income countries. Notably, several countries in Africa and Asia have seen large increases in income inequality over the past 15 years. And when income inequality is rising, it also means that this pandemic is rising. This is killing people. And what's killing people is not that there is not enough food in the world. It is because of inequality. Inequality. This is what the real pandemic is. Killing millions of people, all right? So, inequality increases the likelihood of severe food insecurity, and the prevalence of severe food insecurity is almost 3 times higher in countries with high income inequality, 21%, compared with countries with low income inequality. The greater the inequality in asset distribution, such as land, water, capital, finance, education, health. So we're not only speaking about capital and finance, right? We're also speaking about land. We're also speaking about education and health and all of these things. So these are the things that affect the economic growth process. So this is actually the economics of food, which is affected by inequality. This then slows the progress in reducing food insecurity and malnutrition. Socially excluded and marginalized groups are likely to be hit particularly hard by economic downturns. So yeah. So here it is gonna tell us all of the things that they've figured out for us at the UN headquarters. But what they've done is they've given us the research in order to know what exactly the problem is. And here I'm gonna go full circle, okay? Because we've already seen the problem. So this is exactly what's happening. And according to the proportion of Africa, this has the worst problem of food inequality. Although this is the breadbasket of the world. When the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar, when his emperor called Scipio Africanus conquered Carthage, the place that they conquered, they ended up calling it Afrique. And this place, Afrique, is known in the Roman Empire as the breadbasket of the Roman Empire. And that was Africa. And right now, Africa is still being milked by these huge countries, right? And all of these countries take the resources, the wealth, the knowledge, the everything. But at the end of the day, the people there are dying of hunger, of hunger. So this is a real silent killer that nobody seems to be talking about. The reason I made this video is just so that I could give some perspective on this issue, on this topic, to start a discussion on this hunger issue, Hunger Games. It's not really a game, because what was the number again? So here, deaths by cancer 3.4 million. Okay. Deaths by water 300,000. Okay. Deaths by hunger 4.7 million. So this is a real pandemic, and every year, each year, this is going on. Okay. Just today, 25,000 people have dropped because they didn't have enough to eat. Okay. So So I don't know. This is one of the most important things that I've ever come across, and one of the most important things that I've ever shared. This is concerning the motherland where everyone comes from, and this is compounded by the economy. Like everything right now is happening because of the economy. The economy this, economy that, and we're not able to actually understand what is the economy. So the economy is our access to food. So if they say like no one is moving and no one has access to food, in North America and Europe, they can take it, relatively speaking, because the people who will be affected are not as many, right? 1 trillion people, 1.2 trillion, 1.1 trillion people in in Northern America and Europe, 1.2 trillion people in Africa. But then look at the proportions here. All right, look at these proportions. So so they will be better off in terms of the whole world. But in reality, what happens is the people suffer, and these are the people who own the richest place on planet Earth in terms of looking at mineral resources, natural wealth, human capital. If sunshine, like great weather, was something we could evaluate with wealth, Africa would have a stake in great weather. If animals and natural splendor, nature, like we're saying climate change, this and that, if nature actually has a value, then Africa has that wealth. So it is the richest place on earth in so many different ways, not to mention that everyone comes from there. So it is the bedrock of life. But at the same time, there's a pandemic going on. Like I didn't even go into malaria, cholera, AIDS, cancer, drinking, smoking, or teenage pregnancies, drugs. I didn't even get into all of that. But what I'm just speaking about is basic nutrition. 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 No one wants to nurture Mother Nature. But we all come from Mother Africa. But no one wants to nurture the nature. So this is why it's really, really, it's it's more than a problem. It's a pandemic. But what bothers me about this is that this is relatively in the fringes. Like I don't even know who will make it into like this long into the video, because it's got a lot of content, a lot of sources. Like it's not as juicy because it's not on CNN, you know. So this is just me just speaking on this because someone has to, and at least I have a little bit of an idea of where to find some of this information, and it will really help if you can also be part of spreading this information and knowledge, because because this is very important. This millions of lives are at stake, right? Because like close to 1 billion people need food, and this is something that, all right, all of those people, those Bill Gates people, like, yeah, I want to vaccinate the world because whatever. He knows about this. He knows that all of these people don't have food, and his money, his $100 billion. Like, if he was really serious about this, right, he would just say like, all right, I'm gonna make 50 billion and invest it so that people can have food. But his goal is not really to help the real pandemic. It is just to vaccinate the world. That's his goal. It is not to really solve the pandemic that is affecting 10% of the world, not 0.6% of the world like the corona, which is a bad thing. I'm not taking it away, but I'm saying there's so many things that are affecting the world, but so many things. But the most troublesome thing and very basic and simple thing is food and water. That's it. Food and water. The most basic. So according to this, we're looking at around about 1 billion people in Africa. I mean in Asia, and 600 million people, 200 million people, and 2 billion people in the world who need food. So in the orange dot as well. This is also to be considered. So yeah, this is the state that I'm in, yo. So yeah, I actually just went through the other video, this one, which was speaking on the plutonomics. Then I spoke about all of this stuff. So right now I'm feeling like, yeah, I still do want to talk, but then like, yeah, I've actually gone full circle. Been researching this a long time and been speaking now. Now I just need to stretch and yeah, do some other stuff. So I'm gonna stop here, but I'm not stopping. This is the beginning of something. This is a video unlike anything that I've ever done, because I know that this is the reason why I do what I do, and the reason why I would want to make money or anything like that is to solve problems like this, problems that really do matter. And yeah, this is life, you know. So give people breath, give people bread, right? So some people don't have their daily bread. This is a fact. And what's crazy about it is most of these are children. Most of these are children. So children under the age of 5, 45% of them are these stats. So yeah. So yeah, if you want to support this, like I don't know. The best that I can offer is if you can support this platform, and we'll keep this work going. If there's another way, then we'll find another way. But then through this, as I said in the beginning of the economics of money, is that I wanted to make this all in the other channel that is based on money, because through money talk we get to understand that this is all the pyramid scheme. This pyramid scheme is the same pyramid scheme that is happening here, and it's gonna lead to the eye of provision, but it's all part of the same societal order, right? So it's still the same as how money flows. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. Most of the people suffer, very few don't. So in terms of this food insecurity, this is a very big problem, and yeah. So fixing it is also part of knowing it first, and fixing it is the second part. So as I said, the best that I can actually offer to help is through this platform, through investing. I don't know where this is gonna go, but I do believe that the spirit will lead me as resources are unlocked, as opportunities are met, as things just roll on. So in other words, invest in me in doing this, like buying stock in this idea, you know, before it blows up. Because if you are a person who invests in Facebook before anyone else does, you're a person who makes billions, right? So yeah, this is the investment that I want to make. So if I am to be motivated to do more, it'll be through my purpose and through your conveyance of that affirmation, through your support. Yeah. So yes, thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening. May God be with you and everyone else in this world. May we all have light and life. May we all have love and laughter. Yeah, to love and to laugh. Yes, the fruit of the spirit. And yes, we need to be nourished by the fruit of the spirit. This is where it all boils down to. Nourishment which is from the fruit, which is what? The fruit of the Spirit. Yeah. So thank you a lot. See you soon.